the Safe Routes to School Network. Folks working to make sure that kids, the youth in our community, have safe routes to walk, bike, and get to school, and participate in their communities. And we have an exciting agenda today. I'm Max Singer, he, him pronouns, from Move, Minnesota, doing this welcome and introduction. And just in a second now, we are going to have a MNDOT update done by Sophie of MNDOT. And then later we are going to have a activity around the active transportation safety education led by Lisa Bender of Zan and Associates. No, Alta. And so with that, I'm going to drop a prompt in the chat to introduce yourself to the other network call participants. It's going to be your Safe Routes to School highlight of 2024. Introduce yourself in the chat, and I'm going to pass it over to Sophie for the MNDOT update.
Thanks, Max. I will pull up the shared screen while you all are putting in your hellos and favorite updates of the year. Let's make sure you can see that. I can't see any of you. Hold on. Y'all good? Cool. Alrighty. Just a few updates from MNDOT end of things. So the upcoming Walk Bike Fun curriculum trainings are happening. They are looking for host sites. So if you're interested, send a note to Angela. Registration, trainings, needs assistance, that sort of thing. A great resource that we have across the state. So, and we know so many of you utilize it. The year of events. Our next one is February 5th, Winter Walk to School Day. We have lots of things for you. So register today. The QR code, you can scan that over. It'll send you right to the website for where all the resources are at. If there's something, excuse me, if there's something that you would like that there's not there, send us a note and hopefully we could create that for you. We know your time is limited and we appreciate all of the effort you do for Safe Routes to School in your communities. Grants, and more grants. The grants are still open. They closed January 17th. So we have planning assistance. The design assistance did close this year. Boost grants, infrastructure grants, and transportation alternative for Greater Minnesota. And as well, you're talking to your folks, QR code again, as it will bring you to that grants page. As you're talking to your partners, what do you want to do? What questions that you have? You can still come to our office hours. It's way more efficient than emails because we can kind of brainstorm with you, troubleshoot, and we all can leave feeling a little bit more productive than 5 emails back and forth. So first Monday at 3, third Thursday at 8:30 in the morning. There's never an agenda for these. So if you have a question, pop on, ask it. You can pop back off. If you want to sit around and listen to everyone else's questions, you're more than welcome to do that as well. But they are there for you. So to lighten all of our inboxes. As promised, we were just going to walk through the network call survey. So thank you for everyone who completed this. It really does shape the work for the upcoming year. So just a recap of 2024. Network calls, we covered a lot of content. Myself, halfway through, I was just the one that was participating, and now we're on the other side of helping plan it. So it's fun to see everybody's work on this. We talked a lot about Walk Bike Fun curriculum updates, funding at all levels, especially the, what's it called, Kelly? The Safe Roads for All? No, yeah, federal funding. Event days, local stories, how we can approach Safe Routes to School, district, regional, rural versus urban, things like that. And all the other things. Another really big highlight was the meetup that all of you took time out of your days to come connect with us, which is was so much fun. The results for what we heard from all of you and how we are going to shape the 25 plan for the calls. So these were the top topics. I think we could have all guessed funding was going to be the top one. This is again local, state, federal options and funding, and how can we advance this work and leverage additional funds that we have to make this possible. Guidance on how to engage support from elected officials. We often get some requests of how do we talk to these people? We know what we want to do, but the roles and responsibilities are in the city's hands. How can we bridge this connection? So we're going to have a conversation about that this upcoming year. Again, supporting those rural, small towns. Those approaches may look a little different than urban, suburban, but there might be things that can be applied to everybody. Winter walking and biking. We are in Minnesota. It is already cold. Winter arrived, I believe, yesterday. Um, so how can we continue to support safe routes even in the cold months? Youth engagement, empowerment, developing sustaining partnerships, advocacy, engagement, engineering examples, as we know that is often what communities want is the engineering side, but how can we also pair that with education and encouragement? As we know, that's the most successful is when we pair them all together. Crossing guards, student safety patrol, evaluation tools. How do we know we're doing this work well? Where are we missing it? What can we do better? You've told us you still like the first Thursday of the month, so that's great. We will keep with this. You also like this format, the virtual. It allows everybody to attend with the recording and email follow-ups. And then a lot of you have attended the office hours, so thanks for jumping on those. And we will continue those in 25 as well. And then a few fun new things that Kelly and I and Phoebe were just thinking about how could we advance and keep this work interesting for you all. And you responded how we hoped, but you never know. There is an interest in the Safe Routes to School community of practice. So this would probably launch in June-ish. It'll take us a few months to kind of develop it, and all of your schedules I know are very busy. But it would be thinking through what does that look like. So on a future call, we'll chat through that. There is interest in a localized regional winter meetups for next year. So not this 25, but next winter, which is great. That would be something new instead of just one time in the summer. There is the 25 national conference. It's virtual next fall. And we are thinking through how to do virtual hubs across the state that you all could join together and go listen to it across. So that's more to come on that. And then there was, again, the highlight and the importance of connection and highlight opportunities, which we hear you loud and clear. And so much so that we want you all to share every highlight or share on each call a highlight. So we are going to be asking you, we'll send a follow-up link in the email if you have any interest in highlighting anything that you do. You all do really, really, really great work. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It could be a small win, like wearing superhero outfits during walk to school day to make the kids more excited about walking and biking. Or it could be a lesson learned of something that actually really didn't work well, but it could help somebody else. So in the format of the 25 calls, we'll do Minnesota or the MDOT minute. We're going to do a local highlight, and then we'll have that topic for the day. So that will only be possible if you all volunteer. So more to come on that. And with that, I'll pass it back to Max.
All right. Thank you, Sophie. I think Lisa is going to get prepared to share her presentation screen. Meanwhile, there was a question in the chat, and I would like either Sophie or Kelly to answer it verbally so it shows up in the meeting recording. And that question was, can Safe Routes to School Network people, can people invite city/school partners if needed to the office hours?
Yep, anyone can come to the office hours. It's just 30 minutes where we're there. We're happy to talk through any questions you have about grants, or if you have questions like a barrier that's happening in your community and you just want to bounce some ideas around, anything like that, we're here to help. We know sometimes it gets miscommunicated through emails, so we're hoping the ability to kind of chat through it works well. And we usually just have a couple people on the office hours, so you can hop on, get your question asked, and hop off, or if you want to listen in, you're certainly welcome to do that.
All right, thank you. All right, Lisa, are you ready to take it away?
We're gonna do one. I forgot to add to the agenda. I think Angela is on the call to give us just a quick preview of the upcoming legislative season related to walking, biking, and safe routes to school.
Yeah.
All right,
Hi,
late breaking news. Take it away, Angela.
great. Love taking it away. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Olson, she, her. I'm the Deputy Director at the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. And I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what's going on legislatively for us. I'll try and be brief and just cut me off when I'm play the music, you know? So as a lot of you know, every year we have a bike, walk, and roll summit at the Capitol. I just put the link in the chat to it. It's February 27th, I believe. And we'll be over at the Capitol. We'll be doing some lobbying, having speakers, doing some work around investigating mode sharing and active transportation, safety, policy, and law that we're working on. We have three kind of main focus areas right now that we're talking about. One that we're calling kind of freedom to move, which is focused on policies that are more of an equity, more of a nature from equity and access. We're also looking at driver/car focused behavior. So what kind of policy can we support or advocate for that helps make drivers of motor vehicles make safer choices, and then also money for infrastructure, which I think is kind of the perpetual ask. So that's kind of the three general focus areas. We're still refining and detailing our specific policy language around it. But we'll have more information as we get closer to the summit so that people feel prepared to go talk to their legislators. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Angela, for that update. Hard to believe that it's already getting back in the swing of this session. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of exciting news. Lisa, now I believe now I can hand it off to you with confidence.
I'm ready. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces. I'm Lisa Bender from Alta Planning and Design. And we support safe routes to school plans and active transportation plans around Minnesota. So many of you know us from that work. But we also have this awesome new project with MnDOT called the Active Transportation Safety Program. So I'm here to talk about this project as well as ask some questions of you all if we have time. So So my plan is to tell you sort of more about why we're here. This project grew out of legislation that you've likely heard about from Angela and others on this call related to educating kids on safe walking and biking skills. So we'll talk about the project goal and scope, and then a little bit more about the timeline and engagement. So you all know, because you are leading this work, that Minnesota is a national leader in walking and biking education for youth and adults. And that's because of the amazing leadership from MnDOT and the Minnesota Department of Health, Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, Move Minnesota, all of you working in your communities day to day. You've just built this amazing, all these amazing resources and so much energy around teaching kids the skills that they need to navigate their communities on foot and by bicycle. And we all know that knowing how to walk safely and bicycle safely supports so many goals that communities around our state have, including physical activity, community health, and wellness. We have the Walk Bike Fun curriculum already in Minnesota, and Angela's here. So that's designed to meet state PE standards, and Bicycle Alliance hosts training so that teachers can learn how to use those materials in PE class. So this new project is growing from this amazing network of existing materials and energy in Minnesota. And the plan here is to develop a new suite of educational materials that can be used in any classroom beyond the PE setting, that provides opportunity for more off-the-shelf type materials that have less time commitment and that complements the existing materials, including Walk Bike Fun. And the project exists because of the new state legislation that was passed in 2023 that requires all students K through 8 to receive age-appropriate education for safe walking and biking within the first few weeks of school. That's what the legislation says. And this is similar to the school bus safety education requirement that school districts are familiar with. Non-public schools may provide the education, but they aren't required to do so. And MNDOT was the agency that was directed in that legislation to create a model program of active transportation safety training materials that schools can use to meet the requirements. And right now, the legislation doesn't include any penalties or incentives to implement the educational materials. It does, though, direct MNDOT to provide them to districts. So the legislation is specific about the types of education that students are required to receive. In K through 3, the educational materials are focused on pedestrian safety education that includes information about how to safely cross roads. And then in 4 through 8, those grades receive safety education that includes pedestrian safety and bicycle safety. So our goals are to develop age-appropriate educational materials for Minnesota youth, to learn safe walking and biking skills that reflect Minnesota's rural, suburban, and urban contexts for those grades K through 8 that are covered in the legislation, and to center the needs of Minnesota's diverse schools, especially communities that face health and safety disparities, and make it as easy as possible for administrators, educators, caregivers, and students to support and learn safe walking and biking skills. The project team is led by MNDOT, and Will Wislow is the project manager with a lot of support from Kelly and Sophie and the Safe Routes to School team. And then our consultant team is led by Alta Planning and Design with very strong partnership from Zan Associates leading engagement, the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, which is our technical expert with all of the experience around bicycle and pedestrian education and technical assistance. We have the Safe Routes Partnership, and some of you may remember this guy named Dave Cowan, who was around for a while. So he's on our team, as well as Nick Mason is working with SRP. They're the organization that hosted the National Safe Routes Conference. So we get to leverage their experience and wisdom. And then we also have a project with Juxtaposition Arts, which is a nonprofit arts organization in North Minneapolis that serves youth age 13 through 23 and will work with one of their design seminars so that they'll be able to help develop some of the materials for this project. So our scope is pretty broad. It begins with engaging with partners like all of you and directly with teachers and youth about this general topic of bicycle and pedestrian safety education to hear what kinds of materials might be the most useful and easy to use in Minnesota's classrooms. We'll then develop materials for this age range K through 8 and create those materials on a website hosted by MNDOT where teachers can easily utilize and access the materials in the classroom. And we're also talking with teachers about what that technology looks like for them, using whiteboards or the materials that they're using, Schoology and all these tech-based education portals that teachers are using today. And then from the beginning, we are working on incorporating evaluation into the materials, also in a way that doesn't create barriers for use, but helps us track reach over time. We'll then promote the program to schools.
Matt, do you have 2 seconds?
Oh, sorry. And then provide technical assistance, especially to those schools who score highly on the STEP tool, those schools that have higher concentrations of priority populations from an equity lens. And then our scope also includes action planning for additional content areas, so high school and adult populations in the future. So what are we talking about? Like I said, there's already a lot of materials out there that you're all using, I'm sure, in your communities. Bikeman has great resources that they've created. We also, Alta works nationally, so we have some great examples from California and Oregon that we can learn from a variety of platforms and types of materials. So we're kicking off our project now in November. We have an ambitious schedule to have materials ready by the fall of next year for kids in classrooms. So we're concentrating our engagement now with teachers and students. We'll then develop a brand identity and a platform. We'll start to develop the educational materials along with evaluation and promotional resources throughout the winter and spring. And then our plan is to have materials ready to share for the fall of 2025. And from there, we'll start to launch the technical assistance opportunities led by Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota with the rest of the team supporting. So our approach to engagement, knowing that we have a very short timeline, is to really be as strategic as possible to talk with partners across Minnesota. Right now, we're reaching out to teachers and students to talk about material content, hear about other types of materials that they may like to use in their classrooms, dig into those technology questions around the platform and what will be easiest to use in classrooms. And then that will continue through the winter and spring. As we go, we'll start to refine the questions more to respond to ideas that the team is providing about the types of materials and the platforms. And then we'll finalize those materials in the spring and summer of 2025. So those will be like the gut checks to make sure that we're on the right track. So that is what I have to present. We would love to know if you have any questions for us or for MnDOT. Will isn't here. He had another commitment, but Sophie and Kelly could help answer any questions for MnDOT, or we can take those back. And then I would love, I think we have enough time. We have 3 questions for you in a Miro board, which I can share in the chat, is also here. Oops. Okay. That's okay. I'm multitasking in the shared screen. Hang on. It's a little hard to see the chat when I'm in. There we go. Here is the Miro board link. So if folks want to start getting in there, and I'll share that in a second too. But first we want to pause and see if you have any questions. And then our first question for all of you is to see if you're willing to host us, the ZAN team, to a conversation in your community with teachers or students, or if there are any standing meetings that you know of. Like yesterday, the ZAN team was out in West Central Minnesota at a standing meeting of administrators there. So we were able to piggyback on that opportunity. And if you have those kinds of things, you can email them to me or Jeff, and our emails are there. I'll put them in the chat as well, or you can chime in now.
So I was curious, what has been the response to the teachers and schools you've talked to so far? Some on the range of, this is a legislative mandate and I'm annoyed that I have to do it too. I'm so excited. This is amazing. I wish this was done yesterday. What are you feeling? Where is it in the range?
Yeah, we've just started engaging mostly with partners like all of you. And I think even there, I think folks are reflecting that range that they hear from teachers. So I think that's right on, 100%. I think there's some anxiety around teachers wanting to make sure that they're teaching like the right skills. And so it seems clear that we'll have to provide some good support for teachers to feel confident that they can use the materials and be confident in their own learning as well. So that adult learning component. I think our biggest challenge is probably that Minnesota kids walk and bike in really different contexts and physical environments. So making sure that our materials reflect those different contexts and the different rules to follow, if there's a sidewalk or not, or what the facilities are like where they live. But Jenny Borden, who's here, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, points out that, kids do also walk in all different kinds of contexts throughout their lives, throughout their childhoods and into their adult lives. And so it's actually important for us to teach kids the full range of skills that they need to be able to walk and bike safely in their own community where they live, but also throughout the different environments they might encounter.
I know you said the hope is to get it out by August. Is that, I shouldn't be that specific, but is that early August because teachers are getting back in the classroom? I know some districts start before Labor Day too. I have an assistant principal who put together a presentation from some of the resources I shared when this first came out, and he actually he scheduled a meeting with me for end of January to help him redo his presentation. But this is making me think like we shouldn't, take the time to do that then. But I know the next question will be, well, when will this come out? Because we need to start planning for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, our hope is to have things ready. I know that those teacher meetings and the back to school stuff starts for schools in August. I think we'll have a better sense of our ability to meet that target by springtime. So I think we could come back to this group then. I know that still leaves an open question for planning between now and then. And I think our goal is to have, I mean, obviously we need to have the whole package of materials envisioned and sort of outlined. It's possible we could phase in the materials so that we have the basics ready for the beginning of the school year and are able to add along as we go. So I think that's the best answer I have today.
And then I guess a follow-up, just as he's looking at some of this too, is how I know that, law says, get this accomplished in the first 3 weeks of school. How long typically would people say, like, should this be, only a 30-minute lesson? Should it be done over several days? Most of the schools in this area, it's like, here's a preset PowerPoint for the bus safety, go through this. It takes 15 to 30 minutes, and that's all they cover. And I know this is way more information than that too. So like, what is the hope of like, how long should a lesson be, or how long should this take in the schools?
That's one of the questions we're asking now as part of our engagement. What's feasible for classrooms? I think it's likely we'll offer a range so that if folks really only have that short window, they at least have something that they can use that hopefully would then point to additional resources. And ideally, over time, what we're doing is building up the capacity of schools and districts to teach the material so that this is almost like a gateway to Walk Bike Fun or the more intensive materials that are out there.
Sounds good. Sorry for the million. I was a
Oh no,
teacher
these
for
are
10
great
years
questions.
prior to coming to public health 2.5 years ago, and taught mainly like 2nd to 4th grade, and thinking of like, I know what's like, I worked in some of our local schools too. So just knowing, capacity for the different districts is, I'm very happy you guys are looking into that.
Any other questions before we switch over? And we might reach out to all of you just, separately to see if you'd be willing to host us or have any to answer these 2 questions. But if you are excited about the idea of potentially helping us organize conversations with the principals, teachers, or students, just let us know, and you could put that in the chat, or you could add it to the section of the Miro board here, or you can just contact us separately. So this might feel a little bit backwards. I'll just acknowledge that question 3 is about engagement, but I wanted to make sure we had time to answer these other questions. So the first is a big picture question, but we do, as we're starting to envision the materials, the branding, all of this, want to know what your hopes are for this project, how you see your communities using these materials, what is the gap or what is really needed based on your experience. And you can unmute and share verbally. You can put ideas in the chat, or you can use this interactive board where you would grab sticky notes, and I can make more of them. grab sticky notes and add your ideas directly in. Any of the board is blurry. Is that happening for anyone else? Is there anyone who wants to chime in to answer the question as we It sounds like from Liz's comments that at least some schools are attempting to do this on their own and are asking for resources. And then as we heard in the first question, some schools might have a different reaction. And we know schools are really overextended and maybe feel stressed out by the idea of a new requirement. Some people are skipping ahead, which is totally fine. So I will go through the other questions so people can feel free to enter ideas in any of them. So the other question is, if you imagine what these materials look like, what words or phrases describe your desired visual impression for branding? I tried to make my example words as unleading as possible. So you can feel very free to add any kinds of action words or descriptive words that you want this to invoke or you think will resonate the most in the communities that you work in. And then the last question is about engagement. So we have a lot of these kinds of meetings scheduled with partners. So folks who work with schools, either on Safe Routes to School or we'll go to the school transportation directors standing meeting in January, coordinating with MNDOT's communities, the Active Transportation Advisory Committee, and they have a Safe Routes to School work group. And then this project will have its own project advisory committee that is convening starting likely at the end of January. And then we have planning partners and agency partners like other state agencies, the Department of Education, Department of Health, ATPs, MPOs, the regional planning organizations. We had some great ideas about different ways to reach school communities through Girl Scouts, school-based clubs. One school we worked with on Safe Routes to School has a kindness club that helped implement the demonstration project that we did there. So those kinds of standing groups of kids are a great resource for us if there are already groups of youth in your district or your school community that we could talk with. We'd love to hear those ideas. So these are from other meetings, but that's why they're locked. But we would love you to add any additional ideas, either broad or specific to your community. I think a lot of the theme about being clear about what's expected, being consistent. For the branding, clear and consistent, unique and recognizable, simple, colorful. Have others had principals or administrators ask them for resources? Yeah, that's a great point. Tony said that there's questions about why the first 3 weeks. Gone back and forth about, I mean, that's included in the legislation. I think that's an open question about how we promote the program, all of us collectively, whether we sort of lead with that as a goal or if that's something that phases in over time, maybe more. Yeah, I think that's a great point. We don't want anything to be a barrier to implementing this education. So if it seems like saying 3 weeks makes it more of a barrier, we want to make sure that folks know that if they do it later in the year, it's still better than not at all. Great. Well, this is what we had. If folks have other feedback or topics you want to talk about today, we have time. Otherwise, we would be very happy to come back when we're farther along with more answers to some of these questions.
I'll ask, will the link still work for folks after this meeting? So if folks ruminate on it,
Yeah.
if I include it in the follow-up email, people can add to it as this engagement continues.
For sure.
Is there a general deadline-ish for this board, you think, or just keep going until you run out?
I think it's good to have a deadline. So maybe, you know, December 20th or something for this group. And then we're available. So that's not a deadline for talking with us about this project, but maybe just for entering notes in the board so we can keep our records clear. And then you could maybe include me and Jeff's email in that message as well if folks have teacher meetings or other things coming up after the new year. We can come before the new year. I just assume it's maybe easier for folks to start thinking about scheduling after winter break.
All right. And on that note, I think I will kind of change our gears towards finishing up this call. Going to share my screen once more. There's our slides. As mentioned, this is our last network call of 2024. And in the theme of scheduling in the new year, we will not have a network call in the month of January, in that first week of January. So our next network call will be February of 2025. So lots of time to think about what our aspirations can be for this active transportation education materials. Thank you very much to Sophie for the survey results and the MNDOT update. Thank you, Lisa, for this activity and the work you're doing to bring these education materials and create them for people across our state. This meeting is recorded. There will be a follow-up email coming this week. It's kind of emotional for me too, as this is my first full year of doing these Safe Routes to School network calls, and it's been a really great time to learn about all the great Safe Routes to School work happening across our state. So with that, I'm going to end the meeting, give you 15 minutes of your day, and I will be seeing many of you, if not all of you, in 2025. So happy holidays and happy new year.